welcome to this evening's talk, which is the last of the 3 talks and concerts, so 6 events in total, which we are having at Scoil, the Festival of Early Irish Harp, which has been taking place in Kilkenny this week. We have a wonderful trip to the museums in Dublin on Tuesday, so if you would like to join us, there are probably still places available. I'm really thrilled this evening to present our final speaker for our 3rd talk. Nancy Hurrell is an advisor to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston in the USA, and she's come all the way over and is giving us this wonderful talk this evening. Nancy is, of course, a harpist. She's a musician, firstly, but now she's a scholar harpist who has just published a wonderful book on the birth of the modern Irish harp in Dublin in the early 19th century. And we're very lucky. She has some of her books at a reduced price here this evening. So if you haven't got it and if it's your thing, now is your chance to grab a copy. Her CD has been selling like hotcakes since people arrived in the building. So there's just 1 copy left. So you're all going to have to fight tooth and nail to get the last copy of the CD.
I could bring some tomorrow.
Okay, so Scoil students, so festival students, hold back. We've got more copies tomorrow, and let's let the people who are only here for the talk maybe see if one of them would like the CD. So we're thrilled to have Nancy here. She's doing incredibly valuable work on the history of the Irish harp. So we're very lucky to have her as part of this historical harp family that we have here in Ireland. You're very welcome, Nancy, and I really have a wonderful talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Siobhan. This is like my favorite group in the world, the HHSI. And I don't even play the wire harp, but I feel very much a part of this family, and I very much support what this society is about. Ireland's harp is at the core of the country's national identity and rich musical heritage. An Ireland without harps is inconceivable, for the tradition has lasted almost 1,000 years. From the chieftain's prized harper at the medieval court to the later traveling harpers like Turlough Carolyn, where they were welcomed as resident performers, going from house to house, playing their Irish airs. But by the late 1700s, with the cross-cultural influences of the new continental art music, musical tastes had changed. The early Irish harp music was no longer in demand, and few harpers remained. The plight of the harpers was described in Walker's 1786 historical memoirs of the Irish bards as, in Ireland, the harpers have until lately been uniformly cherished. The taste for that style of performance seems now, however, to be declining. The type of harp played in the late 1700s was quite different from the modern harps played today. The Gaelic harp, or cláirseach, was strung with wire strings to produce a bright metallic timbre with prolonged resonance. The instrument had a fixed tuning in modes and was well suited to the ancient Irish airs, but it was not idiomatic to this new continental art music in the Italian style that was becoming popular. This music had passing semitones and sudden key changes. So by the early 1800s, music making in the drawing room had transitioned from performances by the visiting harper to family members themselves providing the evening's entertainment. Italian art music and opera themes were sung and played on these modern instruments, such as the pianoforte and the French pedal harp. These chromatic instruments possess these delicate sound qualities for the preferred musical style, and they also doubled as exquisitely ornate pieces of neoclassical furniture. These French pedal harps were strung with gut fiber strings instead of wire, and the pedals were linked to this disc mechanism on the neck to raise the pitches for semitones. So a harpist simply moved a pedal whenever she needed a key change, which was different from the wire-strung harps where harpers needed to retune the strings for key changes. In this Regency period, as described in the novels of Jane Austen and depicted in this Gilray cartoon, young ladies play the harp as a prized female accomplishment. It was a desirable social advantage for attracting a suitor and making a good match. Ladies dressed in flowing Grecian gowns to emulate the classical ideal of beauty in imitation of these marble figure statues that were being brought back to the great houses from the grand tours to Greece and Italy. And the capitals on the pedal harps were likewise adorned with Grecian figures formed in this same neoclassical style, inferring a connection to the sublime beauty of the harpist as she played her Grecian instrument. Dublin harpmaker John Egan began his career producing these popular Grecian pedal harps, but he always added an Irish touch, with trumpeting angels on the bass holding sprigs of tiny shamrocks. Can you see that? The daughters in many Irish aristocratic families played Egan harps, such as Lady Alicia Parsons at Burr Castle, and Frances Power Cobb of Newbridge House. And Egan harps were also played by the composer William Wallace and Nicholas Charles Boxa, who was the most famous harpist of the day. At this pivotal juncture in history, the French-inspired pedal harp had clearly usurped the Irish harp in the music room. Musical instruments are not evolutionary in the same sense as plants and animals in nature. These changes in instrument design are driven by fashion and cultural tastes. Ireland's harp was not idiomatic to this modern music coming in, and visually it lacked the style of the decorative arts of the age, and therefore it became obsolete. Harpmaker John Egan perceived the cultural need for a new form of Irish harp, a modernized instrument, and he began to experiment with designs for various models of Irish harps. This was a politically charged era following the 1801 Act of Union with Britain. In this post-Union period, it was important to preserve Irish identity and Gaelic culture as separate from England. At this time, Ireland's harp symbol was ubiquitous in political imagery such as Thomas Moore songs, and yet the playable instrument, the Gaelic harp, had disappeared. Ireland's harp was a metaphor for the country's political status, and it was depicted as a silent, dying harp with broken strings, played by aged bards in former times. Movements to encourage the few remaining harpers and to save the ancient harp airs for posterity had begun in the late 1700s with harp competitions, and now in the 1800s, schools were set up to teach wire harp to students in Belfast and Dublin, and in 1809, the Irish Harp Society of Dublin was formed with the stated aims to revive the native music and poetry of Ireland, and also to improve the Irish harp. John Egan was appointed harpmaker to the society, and he supplied newly designed wire-strung harps to the students in the school, which were vital to the continued transmission of the canon of ancient harp music. None of these harps have survived from the Dublin school, Egan was also harpmaker to the later Irish Harp Society of Belfast from 1819 to 1839, and a few of his improved Irish harp models made for the school still exist. This was an improving age, and that was the thinking behind the name of the model. The most legendary pupil from the Belfast School, of course, is Patrick Byrne, who had a hugely successful career touring for over 40 years with his Egan harp, billed as the last blind harper, performing in venues from holiday resorts to recitals at Buckingham Palace, for he was a favorite of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. Byrne produced an extraordinary range of dynamics and timbres on his harp. A review of his performance of Brian Boru's March described the tone colors as a whisper like the sigh of the rising wind on a summer's eve, rising to acclaim with martial fierceness, from fairy music heard from a distance, to a deep rumbling in the bass, and sounds of the fall of an axe on armor. This complex era in the early 1800s was an improving age, and Egan and other makers of musical instruments were driven for this desire for innovation. And Egan continually championed the idea of a chromatic but Irish harp for playing modern music as well as traditional tunes. Egan's seminal invention was his portable Irish harp. He effectively fused old with new. This instrument was a small harp about 3 feet in height, and it's strung with gut strings and fitted with mechanisms. These are ring stops for an up-to-date chromatic instrument. The design was intentionally Irish. Visually, its bowed pillar shape and its size matched Ireland's oldest and celebrated instrument in homage to the Brian Boru harp in Trinity College. Adverts touted Egan's harp as being the exact form as the beautiful antique Irish harp in the Museum of Trinity College. This was an ingenious marketing strategy. Although the two differed in their organology, whereas the early Irish harp had a body carved from a log, Egan's model was constructed of built-up sections. To reinforce this symbolic Irishness, these lacquered bodies were gilded with motifs of Irish wolfhounds and shamrocks, Egan's signature decoration. The extended head on some portable harps imitates, sort of, the shape of the ancient Galway harp, which appeared at the time in Bunting's 1809 Ancient Music of Ireland. The nationalist branding of Egan harps contributed to their success among the Irish and the Anglo-Irish gentry at home and abroad, for a small, green, shamrock-adorned harp had potent patriotic associations. Egan's portable Irish harp entered the marketplace as a nationalistic product, along with Thomas Moore's Irish Melodies and Sidney Owenson's national tale, The Wild Irish Girl. These three products of Moore, Owenson, and Egan effectively fused a romanticized Gaelic antiquity with the harp trope into desirable forms of songbooks and novels and playable modern instruments. Moore and Owenson also had important roles in this Egan story, for they each played portable Irish harps. But their harps were more than just instruments. They completed their public personas, Moore as the Bard of Erin, and Owenson Robertson dressed and performed as her fictional character in her book, Glorvina, a Gaelic princess. Known for their harp-infused works, these literary celebrities were in demand as salon performers, and descriptions in memoirs blur the lines between biographical fact and cultural fiction. A decade later, in 1850, Egan's portable Irish harp design was faithfully imitated by another harp maker, working for another company, the Robinson and Bustle Company. Looks exactly like an Egan harp. This harp was presented to President Eamon de Valera by Mrs. Julia Fennell in 1972, and it's on view at the Ars Nuptiarum, the President's house. It's displayed in the Franchini corridor as an iconic national instrument seen by visiting presidents, royalty, and dignitaries almost daily as they pass by the harp, visiting from around the world. At the turn of the 20th century, Egan's portable Irish harp on the left continued to be viewed as the archetype of an Irish harp, and these were the major harp makers around 1900. Butler in Ireland, Morley and Holderness in England, and Clark in America. I discovered they each owned Egan harps from which to copy their own Irish harp models. In fact, several of these harp makers exhibited their Egan harps at exhibitions. So the increased manufacture of small Irish harps was really crucial to the revitalizing of a harping tradition in Ireland. In the 21st century, the modern Irish harp is still valued for the exact same qualities that John Egan named in his adverts in the 1800s: portability, chromatic capabilities, bright tone, and affordability. The invention of the portable Irish harp was a significant achievement in Irish harp history. Yet even more remarkable is the story of this Irishman, a self-taught harp maker, who eventually was awarded the highest accolade attainable for a harp maker in his time, the Royal Warrant. Sorry, I just jumped ahead. The Royal Warrant for excellence. Over a decade ago, I began examining harps in collections where I live in New England, known for its Irish diaspora. Harps were held at Boston College, at Harvard and Yale, and another Egan harp was acquired by the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, where I'm a consultant. And I've played this harp many times and recorded tracks on my CD, and I'm continually amazed by the clear tone of this instrument. I was curious to know more about this maker, and it was simply curiosity that led me on this journey. Very little had been written about John Egan at that time, around about 2002. So I began my research by simply studying the harps themselves, first in New England and then abroad, visiting castles, museum storerooms, collections in Ireland and the UK. And with every visit, there was a sense of unexpectedness in that each Egan harp had a certain individuality in its size, shape, motifs, or mechanisms. This was not a typical harp maker, especially at any age, as evidenced by no less than a dozen different models he designed and manufactured. And it was this creative imagination that caught my attention and endeared me to this harp maker. He was clearly an inventor, and for a time, that was even his signature on some of the harps. J. Egan, the inventor. And for his most striking harp, he fashioned a winged maiden cymbal into a playable instrument, which was presented to George IV during his historic visit to Ireland in 1821. But how curious that the harp presented to the British king was in the form of an Irish independence icon. Two of these harps survive today, this one in the Royal Academy of Music in London and another one in the Victor Salvi Museum in Italy. And the harp is featured in the wonderful Thomas Lawrence painting of Lady Elizabeth Cunningham. The harp on the cover of my book is at the Royal Academy. When I first saw it in 2010, it was in a terrible state. It was just stored in the corner of an office. And 4 years later, I presented a lecture at the Academy on just how important this harp was and this harpmaker. And shortly after the funds were raised, it was to have it restored, and I'm absolutely thrilled. The harp is now on view in the Academy's museum. For John Egan, the Winged Maiden harp was part of the most significant chapter in his career, for with this gift to George IV, Egan was appointed harpmaker to the king. The only maker in his time to receive this highly coveted title, and several of his harps display the royal warrant. A further honor was bestowed on his son, Charles Egan, who was appointed professor to the king's sister, Princess Augusta. Her harp music is now in the archive at Yale University, and there are many pieces there by Charles Egan. Today, Egan harps are prized as fine, hand-painted objects. They're like art objects. And remarkably, 100 Egan harps survive in 16 countries worldwide. They are collected as artifacts of cultural identity and examples of fine Irish instrument manufacture. Egan harps are held in major museum collections in Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, Europe, the US, and Japan. His lasting legacy is the portable Irish harp. It influenced modern Irish harp design and also transformed the Irish harp's role in cultural music making. It was first introduced as a travel harp for well-heeled ladies embarking on the grand tour. But today, this quality of portability enables Irish harps played in communal music making and Irish music sessions. And in Egan's time, these small portable harps made harp playing accessible to middle classes for the first time. And in modern times, affordable Irish harps continue to attract players globally. Egan's novel mechanisms, the ring stops to the diddles, were the forerunners of the innovative levers that we see on today's modern harps, enabling harpists to push the limits of repertoire into realms of jazz and world music. Today, we live in an unprecedented age whereby performers and audiences can experience soundscapes of various periods in musical history. Through the efforts of the Historical Harp Society of Ireland, historically accurate replicas of harps are played to recreate the ancient airs from rare manuscripts, as we'll hear in this evening's wonderful concert. Performing period music on my own 200-year-old Egan harp, I can connect to the sentiments of another age. This harp's delicate timbre seems to unlock the sounds of another time. And through this unique musical experience comes a greater understanding of 19th century cultural life. Thank you.
So if you have any questions that you would like to ask her, now's the moment.
This harp, did it just precede the pedal harp or the Weaver harp as well?
Did the portable harp
Weaver harp, is this the first version of like the Weaver?
is the first version of a Weaver harp? Yes, yes. And when I mentioned the organology was different, of course the strings are different from the early Irish harp because it's gut strung. And the organology, we'll talk a bit more about that tomorrow, but it has a conical sound box. It looks a bit like a pedal harp, doesn't it? But he's taken elements of the shape just as a homage to the Brian Maru harp. If you think, no, it doesn't look at all like the Brian, but put yourself back in the early 1800s. All that most people would see is a large pedal harp. And then suddenly someone comes out with this harp that's the exact same size as the Brian Maru harp. And it's like, oh, that's an Irish harp, isn't it? Because they don't really understand the stringing or the organology or anything. So it's kind of a marketing, a patriotism, nationalism. But that was copied in the at 1900 by all the major harp makers to become our leader harp today. Right? Got it? Good.
The Royal and the Portable Irish harps, what kind of percentage of the surviving harps actually on the digital system as opposed to the
There are more of the diddle harps, extant. The ones with the ring stops are fairly rare, and mine has ring stops. I think that is probably because I talk about this in the book actually, how the shape of the instrument, the construction changed. Eventually this very slender pillar started to twist a little bit, and if he needed a thick pillar to house the mechanism, the diddle mechanism, and so even the later ring stop harps have a much thicker. It doesn't have the jutting finial at the top, but the shape change became thicker, more stable, so it would last longer. And I think that's why they were made at a later time. And I think that's perhaps why there are more of those around. But there's a database at the back of the book of, I've discovered about 100 harps, over nearly 15 years, I guess. They're still out there. I'm sure there are many more out there. The question?
Can you talk a little bit about the music traditions in terms of where people learned and the style of playing of the Egan harps and how it fits in with classical music or traditional music, or where it's situated in different musical traditions?
Yes. My two main sources for playing on the portable Irish harp would be Charles Egan's books that I've been lucky enough. It's kind of strange that all of this music ended up on my doorstep in Connecticut at Yale University. And of course I've looked at his books in the British Library and Smithsonian. And so I play from those books, and it's a curious mixture. He has Carolyn tunes, he has he'll just say ancient Irish melody, and it's a tune collected in bunting. He also has national airs like a Spanish air, a German air. He has opera tunes. So there was very much a mix of the art music and the Irish music played on this instrument. And then I also look to the bunting volumes, the 1809, in fact, at Newbridge House, they had in the harp music and they played from piano music at this time. You could play, those airs work on the portable Irish harp. You could get rid of some of the chromaticism, but the Alberta bass, they fit so beautifully on that harp because it's similar to the pianoforte of the era. It sounds like the pianoforte, so it's in that, has that timbre. But that's what they played, was opera themes, pedal harp music. Oh, the pedal harp music is very curious. Labar and Boxa from this period took Irish airs, and it was theme and variation, and they would introduce the Irish tune that you recognize and then turn it into an Italianate style, with all these various triple meter, arpeggiated versions, harmonics version. So it's a mixture of kind of pedal harp techniques and impressive type of solos. But I think the amateur harpists in the drawing room, they were not very accomplished, probably. They wanted to, they're playing the harp because their manuals on conduct say to hold your arms a certain way at the harp and to have a pleasing countenance on your face as you play, and hope that that person is watching you as you play your Irish air, because you're wanting to attract their attention. So it was a mixture. Is that? Yes? Yes.
Okay, so I think many of you are joining us for our concert, which begins at 7:30. If you haven't already got your ticket, do so at once after this and come and join us. We have three amazing performers, two on harp, and Sarah Bree, she's come from West Connemara to sing to us, so this is a very rare opportunity to hear that raw sound of Connemara. So please come and join us. If you're with us maybe for the first time and you'd like to know more about our events in the future, we have a mailing list at the back that we're very happy for you to sign. And the mailing list is sitting beside a little pink pig. And the little pink pig is a piggy bank, and his tummy is empty, and he loves to eat. So if you have enjoyed this talk and you would like to help the society, please feel free to feed the piggy.